Two. We're back. Okay, so Pete.
So, Grandma moved back to Monte after Mom died with Helen, your Uncle David, and your Uncle Steve. And I stayed because I thought I was going to be able to find a job in Denver. And I stayed with Peter Valdez, who was your grandma's boyfriend. Okay. And so I stayed with him, and we had an apartment on Larmer Street, or a one room thing on Larmer Street. I remember that. And like the places where I was looking for work were like the Denargo Farms and places like that, where they had produce markets, where they produced and cleaned and packaged potatoes and those kinds of things. Well, I couldn't find work. So finally I said, nah, I got to go back. So I went back to Monte Vista and I got a job at Central Produce, which was the same work that I was trying to find in Denver. And then October 3rd, 1943, October 3rd, 1960 came around. I turned 17 years old and I was still working. And then you have a cousin by the name of Billy Casillas who said, hey, Lencho, I see you're looking for a car. Let's go over here. And I think I know where there's some cars that you can probably buy. And I said, oh, okay. And he was driving at that time. So we headed towards Alamosa. And there were some junkyards, on the way to Alamosa. And we passed them. And I looked at him and I thought we were going to the junkyard. And he said, no, we're going to go to Alamosa. There's places there. So we went to Alamosa, straight to the Navy recruiting office. Okay. And Billy says, hey, Lencho, how about you and I take the test, see if we can't get into the Navy? And I said, okay. So I went in and he and I took the test. He failed the test and I passed it. Okay. And then when I found out that I passed, the guy says, well, you got to have your legal guardian's signature. So I got the paper and I took it to Grandma and she signed it. Took him back. And after that, he said, well, when do you want to leave? And I says, how about after Christmas? So December 26th, 1960, I was on my way to Denver to go get all the physicals and everything that needed to happen. And then soon after that, I was on a flight to San Diego, went to boot camp, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's how I got in the Navy. And I think I kind of knock on wood that maybe I did the right thing at that time. Going into the Navy. And then, because I was also giving money to Grandma because she was taking care of my siblings, okay? And she needed support. So I was giving her a little bit of money, from the Central Produce. Que no era nada. I mean, it was nothing, okay? So when I got to the Navy, I said, well, I want to give half of my paycheck and send it to my grandmother. And half of a recruitment or a Navy recruit's salary was like about, and I looked it up, by the way, and you can look it up too in terms of how much money a month you would be getting at that time. $76 a month.
Oh my gosh.
$76 a month is what I was making, and half of that was going to Grandma, and I would keep half. However, you didn't have to buy food or nothing like that. You had a roof over your head, so the $36 a month that I had was like for a hamburger here or whatever, but so then after that, then they shipped me overseas and I went to Japan. And at that time, then I was 17, 18 years old, 18 and a half years old. And the sailors like to go party and like to go to bars and like to do all that wonderful stuff that sailors do. Okay. So I wanted to do that too, but I didn't have money. So I stopped my chance going to Grandma.
You stop sending her money.
No, I asked her first. Okay. So she said, oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Okay. So anyhow, but that was only $76 off.
Wow, she could have lived $76.
And then you were in the military for how long?
3.5 years.
3.5 years.
But in the Navy.
Oh, Navy. Yeah.
military.
Were you in the wax?
How come you didn't get into the wax? I mean,
They didn't want me.
What's
I
the
wasn't
wax?
bright enough.
When you went in, Uncle Art, you were pre-Vietnam as well, right?
No.
So you were in there during Vietnam.
No, this was before Vietnam.
Okay.
This was the Korean conflict.
Oh, you were there for the Korean conflict.
That was the tail end of it.
Okay. Did you get a chance to go to Korea?
No,
We were called. We went as far as San Diego,
Okay.
but from San Diego they called us back to Fort Leonard Wood because they were already taking care of everything over there.
Which base were you located in? Fort
Fort
Hood?
Leonard Wood,
Oh, Fort. Okay.
What state is that?
Missouri.
Missouri. Okay.
so, I'm getting signals. So they ask you what you want to be when you go in the military, right? They ask you what kind of career, what kind of vocation do you want, so we can train you. Well, one of the things I wanted to be was a storekeeper, okay, because they have that category. And the reason I want to be a storekeeper because I saw the Ocañas in Sunnyside that they used to have a store, right?
Right.
And I saw that they make money, so I figured I want to be a storekeeper like them. So I selected storekeeper, and I never got to go storekeeper school. I never got any of that stuff. So I became what they call a deck ape. A deck ape. That means that you just clean the deck of the ship. You mop it, you sweep it, you do all that stuff. And if you want to continue doing that for 3 or 4 years, fine. But I didn't want to do that. So I said, okay, so what can I do? What else can I do? So I saw that the cleanest people on the ship were the guys that were signalmen and communications in the signal corps. I said, I want to be one of those. I don't want to be dirty. I want to be one of those. So I asked if I could be a striker, a signalman. And they said, sure, come on down. So I moved from the bottom of the ship here to another part of the ship. And my job was then to be on top, where the bridge is, right there with the captain and all those people, So I had to learn Morse code. I had to learn the flags. I had to learn all that stuff, So I became a signal man in the Navy. Clean job. Okay. So I didn't have to be dirty all the time.
So did you iron your clothes too?
Actually, the ironing of the clothes. But see, we learned that even before we went in the Navy.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I learned from my big brother is always keep your shoes polished. Because it doesn't matter what you look like, because the first thing people look at are your shoes. And if they see your shoes, they don't pay any more attention to your attire. So I followed that advice, but then we also learned that because we had to iron clothes, and we learned how to iron early, we were doing our own ironing. And
And that was an iron. It wasn't electric, it was iron.
yeah, it was an iron where you had to
Yeah.
put it on the stove and make it hot.
There's a story about that one, right?
Yeah.
Somebody burning somebody with the iron.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about the military before we go on?
Yeah.
Discrimination as you know it now, how can you describe it
Then.
why back then when you guys were in the military?
Did you experience
Did you
it?
feel it?
Did you?
Feel
You did.
In the ship that I was on, there were maybe 3 other Mexican Americans and 3 African Americans. And we had 250 people on that ship.
Jeez.
And in that ship, we had people from all parts of the country. We had people from the South that were racist to the max. They would use the N word constantly. They would be able to call you a dirty Mexican. Okay. So all of that happened in the Navy. And you didn't have any recourse. Okay, because the Navy at that time, you're looking at 1960. Racism was all over the place. Homophobic people. I mean, you didn't even know at that time. When I was stationed in Boston, Massachusetts, that's the first time I came in contact with homosexuals
You know.
that I knew because of the way they acted. Okay, and only because one time we were out partying in bars and stuff like that, and we accidentally walked into a gay bar, and I saw all this happening. I mean, for me, it was no big deal so much, but the other people got all freaked out, started calling people names and all of that. And I recall walking down the street, and not just so much with the gay folks, but with the African Americans, where these crazy kids from the South would be chewing, and they would be spitting on people. Okay. And then you have a park called Boston Commons in Boston, where all the gay people used to hang out, and they would have to have protection because people would go there and beat them up.
Wow.
So that's how bad it was in that time. I mean, it's probably it hasn't improved that much, but it's better.
Well, it was also like that in Monte Vista.
Well, Monte Vista, when we were growing up, I remember only one African American.
I lived by my grandma.
The one that was the caretaker of the dump.
Oh.
Can we pause for a second? And then you guys can carry that story forward. That 10 minutes goes by really fast. We're
That was like
actually
a half
hitting
hour.
Yeah,